There we go. Thank you. Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for February 6, 2023. There is no public testimony during the review session. Okay, the first items up are adjournments. Item number 1, 2021-1BZ, 3118 37th Street, Queens. Item number 2, 2021-82BZ, 218 Hamilton Avenue. Postponements. Item number 3, 2021-84A, 6301 Amboy Road, Staten Island.
Ms. Deputy Director, I do want to make a brief record on this. The fees were, this case was first filed in December 8th of 2021. The notice of comments was sent on July 14th of 2022. This was calendared for November 14th of 2022 for its initial hearing. But the application was postponed on that date because they haven't provided sufficient plans. The case was then resent. The BSA received a set of preliminary drawings that were not entered on the record. They had some questions of the preliminary drawings sent an email. The application submitted is incomplete and cannot be reviewed by the agency or other applicable agencies. Furthermore, the applicant was non-responsive to staff comments. A site survey would be required, which is not part of the original submission. I'm requesting council send a dismissal warning and advise the applicant that continued failure to prosecute will result in a dismissal of this action.
Can I make a suggestion that maybe we give them a time within which they have to file an application, a revised application, and if they fail, then we will dismiss it by that time. And the letter should be very clear in that regard, that we will give them a certain period by which they have to submit all the revised documents. And should they fail, we will then dismiss it as the Vice Chair suggested. I'm just suggesting a slight clarification on the time period. Is that okay with you, Chair Shibata, Vice Chair Shibata?
That's fine by me.
Deputy Counsel, Yao has her hand up. Sorry.
Hi.
Deputy
Yes,
Counsel has her hand up.
Yes, since this is the initial scheduled hearing or initial discussion that we're having on this, I would request that we ask all of the board members what they believe how we should proceed in this case, if that's okay.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay, so I've stated what I have is that give them like about 4 months or something to respond to all the comments and submit a complete application. And should they fail to do that, then we dismiss it.
May I make a mention though, just accordingly procedurally, they have to reserve all the parties because Community Board was not served of this application initially and reached out to us.
Absolutely, yes, yes, agree.
So do you want me to, Vice
Call
Chair?
Commissioner Otley Brown. I've stated my position. You should call Commissioner Otley Brown and move down the line.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
I agree with the chair that we should give them 4 months from this moment on, so that this way they can say that officially they have been warned and notified of our actions ahead of time, so they're not blindsided.
Okay. Commissioner Shetta?
Thank you, Tony. I'm okay with 4 months or as a maximum, or any other period. If they elect to go with like 3 months or 2, I would be fine with them too. Just that somebody should get in touch with them. A letter should be sent, as Vice Chair and Chair mentioned. And if they want additional time, I'm okay with up to 4 months for them to finalize and be appear before us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yoon? Commissioner Yoon, we cannot hear you. Still cannot hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I agree with the chair and the vice chair, and I'm okay with 4 months and providing the clarification of the future actions that will happen if they don't submit their, if they don't prosecute the case.
Okay. Next item, move on, Vice Chair? Chair?
Yes, please.
Item number 12, 295-57BZ, 14615 Union Turnpike, Queens. This is a postponement.
So this matter is being administratively postponed as the applicant has failed to provide proof of notice of initial hearing. This will be the final postponement, and I'm directing council to send a dismissal letter. The case was initially filed on August 17th of 2021. A notice of comments was sent out on November 17th of 2021. The first substantive response was in August 23rd of 2022. Hearing was set on December 5th, and it was postponed because they failed to provide proof of initial filing. We have received proof of hearing from an attorney who was at the time not authorized according to the authorization letter that was submitted on Friday, because this authorization was signed 8 days later. I do feel optimistic because the counsel who's now assigned to this case is quite competent. So, but this has been poorly prosecuted, and I believe a dismissal letter is appropriate at this point. Any comments from other commissioners?
No.
Noticing that everyone's nodding their head in the negative, I say we move on.
Okay. Can we just make a mention of that Vice Chair is chairing, or Commissioner, Chairperson? Do you want to make a statement about that?
Oh, yes. I'm going to let Vice Chair Shibata lead today's hearing.
Okay. So the next item is withdrawal request, item number 4, 66363BZ, 46 10th Street, Staten Island. And the motion to withdraw. Chairperson Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shibata,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yu.
Aye.
Application has been withdrawn. Decision items. Item number 5, 65160BZ, 600 West 246th Street, the Bronx.
This applicant was to submit a letter stating that the space has not been put to any other use since the most recent tenants vacated. They provided that statement and referenced the letter of Glenwood Management Corp. in support. I'm prepared to vote on it, and I await the comments from other commissioners. I propose a term of 10 years from the date of the grant.
I have no additional comments. Thank you.
Tony, can you ask the other commissioners?
Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown,
I have no additional comments.
Commissioner Shetta,
I have no additional comments, and I want to thank them for the clarification letter. Thank you.
Commissioner Yoon.
I have no further comments.
Okay. So we take the motion to approve. Chair Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shibata,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
This application has been granted. Item number 6, 17496BZ, 1108 Allerton Avenue, the Bronx.
This application is ready for a vote. No submission was required. I propose a term of 10 years from the date of the grant.
I'm
Vice
satisfied.
Chairperson, sorry.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with it.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Are we voting or just stating our,
Is
Aye.
anyone else? Yeah, just.
Any comments from other commissioners?
no comment here?
No comments? Okay.
So I
Commissioner
call for a
Shetta.
vote.
Okay. Chairperson Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shibata,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Thank you. Application's been granted. Item number 7, 30909BZ, 2173 65th Street, Brooklyn.
On the last hearing, the applicant stated that it would submit updated photographs of the site with a cover letter. They submitted recent photographs showing the progress of construction at the site. They also revised the statement of facts on page 4 to state that in the spring of 22, ownership of got a new lender, which held up the project. In support of the statement, they attached DOB printouts evidencing the owners obtained permits in September of 2022 and began construction. Therefore, the applicant seeks an extension period of 4 years so that building can be constructed and there is adequate time to obtain a certificate of occupancy. They did submit that timeline. I'm prepared to vote on it. Any other comments from commissioners? Noticing that everyone is shaking their head in the negative, I ask for a vote.
Chairperson Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Application has been granted. Item number 8, 243 13BZ, 125 Greenwich Street, Manhattan.
I requested the applicant submit written confirmation of when the work at the site has or will commence. The applicant submitted a letter from ownership stating that construction is expected to commence by March 1st, 2023. I'm satisfied with the application and propose a grant of 4 years from the date of this grant, an extension of 4 years from the date of this grant. Any comments from other commissioners? Noticing again that everyone's shaking their head in the negative, I ask to call for a vote.
Thank you. Chairperson Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item number 9, 2017 131BZ 7779 Jerry Street, Brooklyn.
The requested amendment changes the bold provisions of the previous grant. So the resolution will state that as the lot coverage of the proposed building increases from 80% to 100%, thereby increasing the amount of non-compliance granted under ZR 23-153 in the prior grant. Seeker is closed. A tech memo was provided. No new reviews needed based on the changes. Any comments from other commissioners?
No.
Again, noticing all the commissioners shaking their head to the negative, I call for a vote.
Chairperson Shanda,
It seems that Chairperson Chanda has left, so.
wait,
She's
there
back.
she is.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Aye.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened. Sorry.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Application has been granted. Item number 10, 2022 37BZ 1864 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn.
The applicant had asked for permission to make a submission by February 3rd. I approved the request as the change that was requested was minor and required by code. Have the other commissioners had the opportunity to review the new plans?
Yes.
Do you take any objection to the new plans? Having noticed that there are no, I have noticed that no one, they have all reviewed the new plans and taken no objections to the new plans. I propose to approve with conditions that removal of exterior wall and or joist in excess of those indicated on the BSA approved plans shall null and void the special permit. And call this for a vote.
Chairperson Shanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
The application has been granted. Continued hearing items. Item number 11, 2017 306BZ 1977 East 14th Street, Brooklyn. It's amendment of a previously approved special permit. They also have amended the application to add a request for extension of obtaining a C of O.
So being that the only thing that was outstanding was the request for an extension of time to obtain a certificate of occupancy, I believe this matter is ready to close. Any comments from other commissioners? Again, noticing that everyone is nodding their head in the negative. Commissioner Shetty, do you have any comments with regard to that? Oh, noticing that everyone's nodding their head in the negative, I asked to vote to close.
Chairperson Shonda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Oh, I
Aye.
have a question. Can we take a closed vote at the review session? Does it have to be at the public hearing? I
We
just
used
have
to
a,
do it during the public hearing.
Yes,
We-
Commissioner Sheta is correct. We usually do those after we speak to the applicant.
okay.
oh, sorry, yeah, why am I getting confused today? Sorry about that. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, sorry.
Okay.
So it's not, no voting yet, sorry. Yowza. Okay, let's move on to the new cases. Item number 12 was already postponed. Item number 13, 820-67BZ, 41 Barker Street, Staten Island.
Okay, so initial filing was provided, and that was on December 9th, 2022. Proof of hearing notice was provided. Community Board voted yes on November 10th of 2022. That's 32 in favor and 1 abstaining out of 33. This is an action. This is an application filed pursuant to section 11411 of the zoning resolution for an extension of term of a variance for the continued use of an automotive repair shop in an R3A zoning district, which expired on November 8th, 2021, and a waiver pursuant to 107.3 B2 has been also requested. The BSA has had jurisdiction over this matter since November 13th of 1945. They have submitted all necessary documents to evidence compliance to prior conditions, but the photographs submitted show a trash enclosure facing the street in a state of overflow. It also shows a side yard that can use a much needed cleanup to be much more neat. It seems that there are more than 11 cars parked on this site, and while it's difficult to count the amount of cars on the lot with the photographs provided, Google Images clearly shows more vehicles on the lot in 2017, a clear overflow of vehicles in 2018, and tires and overflowing refuse in 2019. We also need more photos to support the statement that 7 hedges in the front separate the residential neighbors per the previous approved BSA application. And in general, we need to get a 360 view of the site, including the rear, so many more photographs. They provided a maneuverability plan, and I would suggest that they put some type of bumper on the residential lot line so the vehicles do not hit the fence. They had not issued a statement of substantial prejudice if this isn't granted. They did provide a lighting plan, but I asked for the note that, and I believe they added a note saying all lighting sources that are located close to residential use shall be shielded from direct view to minimize any adverse effects on surrounding residences. They allege that they're in compliance with signage, but the photos show 2 signs in addition to the one on the building. One of them is on a gate and one is a makeshift billboard on a fence. Overall, the site could use a bit of work. And those are my comments. Any comments from other commissioners?
I have a couple of comments, and that's mostly regarding the site plan. In preparing the site plan, the architect used the architectural survey. While that is helpful, that doesn't quite pick up a lot of the details and the conditions that the prior board had required. For example, the site plan should include the location of the trash enclosure, either within the site. If it is outside the building, that is, it should provide the location of the landscaping. It should provide the detail of the nature of the buffer, the fence condition, what the material of the fence height, all of those are missing. Also the location of the light fixtures, those are also not indicated. Those do not come up in site survey. So while I appreciate the site survey being provided, in addition to that, there should be a separate site plan that shows all these details, because the following plan, BSA 3 or BSA 4, do not pick up those elements at all, like curb cut width, the location of the entrance to the facility, and if the location of the entrance is aligned with the curb cut. Those are important elements also. So those were not captured in the existing site plan since the site survey was used. I would also go, in addition to what Vice Chair has mentioned, I would suggest that the applicant also stripe the parking spaces and on the site, and as mentioned, some kind of a bumper be provided. Especially, it seems the vehicles are not parking parallel and perpendicular as shown in the plan. The vehicles are parking perpendicular to the side lots. So if that's the situation, there is a greater likelihood of damage being done to both the fences on both sides of this on either sides of the side lots. So bumpers should be provided regardless on both sides to prevent any possible damage done to the fence condition. Yeah, and those are my just additional comments. Thank you.
No, anything from other commissioners?
No
Vice Chair,
additional
if you don't,
comments.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Vice Chair.
Could you call each commissioner out, Vice Chair?
Commissioner Otley Brown,
No additional comments.
Commissioner Shetta,
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, I share the comments with you regarding the substantial prejudice. I just want to clarify one thing you mentioned, and I didn't see it. I haven't seen a lighting plan submitted. I just checked the folder and I couldn't see a lighting plan. So I'm not sure even if we need one, but however, if the board is okay with not submitting a lighting plan, they need probably to put a note on the site plan regarding not shedding any lighting on adjacent property. But other than that, I'm fine with the application.
and Commissioner Yoon.
Hi, thank you. I did visit the site and can confirm that they are parking everything perpendicular, so they have more spaces than they show on their plan. I agree with the chair that the site plan should not be merged with the survey. They should have a separate site plan, and it should be more representative of the actual conditions on site. They have submitted the previously approved BSA plans, which have a lot more information than the drawings that they submitted for this renewal of terms, or extension of terms. So they should look to the previously approved plans and try and aim for that level of information and detail as the chair was sort of going through bullet point by bullet point. For signage, I think the signage analysis form is incorrect because it states 50 square feet of signage, but there's actually more than that on the as shown on the drawing. So I think you need to take a look at your your signage analysis form. And then the trash and the tires on they're adjacent to the street as opposed to where they're indicated on the previously approved BSA plans. The trash should be moved away from the street unless it's actually pickup day. So please make sure, the applicant needs to make sure to indicate where they want to hold the trash during non-pickup days. I agree we need some information about exterior light sources. I didn't see many on site. There certainly weren't any poles or anything that would cause any immediate concern, but I think it's worth it for the applicant to indicate where any lights are on the exterior on the drawings. I have a question about whether the board, the other commissioners think that having them revise the parking to reflect how they're actually using the site, or restricting them to the previous layout, or if we have any direction or guidance on how the applicant should proceed.
Commissioner Chanda? The chair.
That's okay. I have a couple of suggestions on that, and I agree. I agree. If there is going to be need for more parking, rather than create a situation where it's going to constantly result in violation or not in compliance with the plan, if the applicant wants to provide more parking on the spot in this area, the applicant needs to go through it and go through the findings, justifying how the increase in number of parking spaces will not create more issues, especially with maneuverability within the site, outside the site, and it is not going to result in being a nuisance to the abutting to residential units. They need to go through that and clearly indicate that how providing this, because I was going through the prior resolutions, and in that the prior boards had expressed concern, and the community boards also had expressed concern that there be no work or no vehicles be parked outside, basically taking away on-street parking for vehicles awaiting repair. So if this means containing everything within the site and minimizing dependency on street vehicles, that's great. But with that comes the added responsibility of the applicant to justify how this would not be an added nuisance to the neighbors. That is, it's not going to result in more unsightly activities. It would be still kept clean. The maneuverability is not going to be a nuisance for the neighbors, and they will be able to maintain the site. I would be okay with that if they can justify those and prove that point. And to the question of the lighting, I think the applicant stated that generally the lights are turned off after business hours, and their business hours are till 5 p.m. Mondays through Friday and 1 p.m. on Saturdays, which seems pretty reasonable if the lights are going to be turned up after 5 p.m., except for 2 security lights, which are, I believe, motion sensor lights, and which is very typical in any even residential homes. You see these motion sensor lights, but they should just indicate that, as Vice Chair mentioned, the note that any lighting should not be a nuisance to the surrounding neighbors, and they should be shielded. And that note, the standard note that we have been asking applicants to provide, should be added.
Chairperson, would you agree that it would be, if they want to change the parking to increase the amount of cars on site, they would have to file an amendment and pay those fees?
Yes.
So applicants directed that if it intends to continue to have more vehicles, they'd have to take the specific steps that Chairperson Chanda stated, and also file an amendment. Any other comments from other commissioners? I ask that we move on then.
Chairperson, can you pull your hand down?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Item number 14, 212-000BZ, 640-666 South Conduit Boulevard, Brooklyn.
Proof of initial filing was provided April 21st, 21. Proof of hearing notice was provided on January 13th, 23. There has not been a community board vote as of yet, but there is one scheduled for February 21st of 2023. This application is filed pursuant to provision of the zoning resolution section 7221 for the renewal of a variance which permitted a gasoline service station with specific accessory uses. Applicant claims that they're in substantial compliance with conditions imposed by the board, with minor exceptions noted on the statements of fact regarding signage and vehicle detailing. This is not the case. Ongoing vehicle detailing is not in compliance, and it was specifically stated in the board's resolution that no vehicle detailing is permitted. Further, they have additional uses contrary to the prior resolution, including a fast food location, a donut shop, an auto leasing establishment. So procedurally, this application requires an amendment be filed and the required fees to be paid. They also need a ZRD1 for the enclosed canopy area for detailing to determine whether it's additional floor area. They will need to explain how all the multiple uses are accessory to this gas station, and I truly believe this is going to be quite the hurdle. They have to follow the 1210 definition of automotive service station and accessory uses. Chairperson Chanda?
So I agree with you that this is not just an extension of term, and that there requires an amendment. And as the auto leasing part, I would like the applicant to clarify whether this auto leasing is just an office space, or there are also vehicles parked here that would be used for picking up and dropping off. Because if it's the latter, then it's a use group 9. And that is not permitted in a C12 district. All the other, except for the gasoline service station, the car wash, and the auto repair, which is part of the grant of the prior board, and the accessory convenience store. The restaurant is an as of right use in a C1 district. However, the auto lease is not, it's use group 9. So that would be an added request for a change of use. That would, the applicant will need to then amend, have to meet all the findings of the prior, have to meet the findings in justifying how the auto lease would not, would be in compliance with the prior findings. And I think that that would require revising the application, as you mentioned, and also the statement of facts and findings. There are, the plan is, needs a lot of detailing. In terms of the site condition from the photos that's been provided, and especially from the Google Street View, it is not in it does not meet most of the conditions. First of all, there is tremendous amount of graffiti, at least based on the Google Street View and from some of the photos that picked up, that captured those walls, indicate that there's graffiti all over this building, especially along the Belmont Avenue frontage. It repairs a good need of painting, coating. The curb cuts along South Conduit Boulevard, while there are 4 curb cuts, when you look at the Google Street View, those curb cuts pretty much have merged. It seems like one long continuous curb cut. So that is definitely a danger to the, in terms of the site and in terms of safety of the pedestrians. So the curb cuts need to be repaired and the sidewalk needs to be restored along South Conduit Boulevard. Then with regards to signage, the applicant in its statement has that it is not complying with most of the signages. And the applicant needs to correct these signages. There's a lot of signage. And I have to say on this one, the signage analysis is one of those, makes it complicated because here we are granting a use variance, and on top of it, there are some uses that are permitted as of right. And so while the uses that are being granted may be under different tenants and run by different operators, doesn't mean therefore they're different uses and treated as separate zoning lots. That should be all treated as one zoning lot, like auto repair, lube, all of this should be part of one zoning lot signage analysis. And then the convenience store, the restaurant, those are as of right uses. Those can be treated as separate zoning lots. So the signage analysis is much more complicated and has to be done in a correct way. So in this case, I would suggest that a note be added that the signage shall comply with C1 zoning district. And I do think if there is more excess signage, then we would like it more from a neighborhood and a aesthetics point of view. The board, I think, is in a position to put a limit that it shall be no more than certain amount of total signage. So I leave that discussion for later because the applicant needs to show what are the signs that are that needs to be removed and eliminated, because there are a lot of illuminated signs that are more than the permitted. I also want to understand what exactly is happening with the vehicle detailing. While I personally do not have an issue with providing a detailing area, I just want to know how it is going to be placed and how it is going to or not affect the maneuverability plan within this subject site, because there are a lot of uses happening. And I want to kind of understand that. And as Vice Chair pointed out, I mean, is it going to, the covered area, is it going to result in excess floor area? Then the applicant needs to show that in the analysis or seek a ZRD1. Lighting plan has not been provided, which I think given that it's a standalone block and the abutting uses are not residential, I do not think a lighting plan is needed. However, there should be a note that should be added, the standard note that any lighting should be pointed away from residential uses. So as I said, the overall site condition needs a lot of improvements. I also noticed that the 5 vehicles that parking spaces along Sheridan Avenue, the wheel stops have come undone. They're actually like encroaching onto the sidewalk, which is again a safety concern. So I'm not sure to what extent the wheel stops are effective in this case. I would suggest that a low 4-foot high wall or a fence, a metal picket fence be placed along that wall. I think a wall would be better, but then again, that results in graffiti. I let the applicant pick, but it has to be something that's tastefully laid out so that it prevents the vehicles from having to undo the wheels and then further encroaching onto the vehicles, encroaching onto the side yard. Also from Google Street Views, I noticed there were vehicles parked on the sidewalks. That's not permitted. So while the applicant is requesting an extension for 20 years, the previous grant was also for 20 years. And what we have noticed in this last 20 years, a lot has changed. And a lot has changed not in compliance or conformance with any of the conditions of the prior grant. So I am very reluctant at this point to consider a 20-year term, given that the applicant has been not very responsive to most of the board's conditions. So I would be at this point saying just grant a usual 10-year term, starting from the expiration of the last grant, which expired in 2021. So starting from 2021, allow a 10-year grant with some changes that has to be done now. I'm not ready yet at this point, wanting a 20-year grant.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Chairperson. I just want to clarify, you agree that they need to go through the findings of 7221, especially finding E, to show that this is the minimal variance.
Yeah.
And further, the only thing I would like to add is, with regard to the graffiti, I asked the applicant to explain whether or not they believe that they have street art as a portion of that would be street art or not. And I'd be interested in hearing that argument. Commissioner Otley Barron.
Actually, I have nothing additional that is substantial to say. I agree with you that they need to revisit the findings since this is a variance and there's most definitely a more intensive use here at this site. And they should also talk about the fact that these different uses are still accessory uses to the variance, because it's getting to the point where I believe that the use group 6 might actually be the primary use here. And so that's an issue. And I also agree that they have to give us signage analysis by frontage and not by different store.
Thank you.
No other comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you. I agree that they need to submit an amendment here. There are a lot of uses that were not in the original grant. Regarding the lighting diagram, I don't think we need lighting diagram here. I don't see any residential even across any of the surrounding streets. So I don't think a lighting should be warranted here. Regarding the car detailing and the parking on the sidewalk, looking at the Google image, you can clearly see that all the cars that are parking on the sidewalk are apparently awaiting detailing service. So if they're gonna submit an amendment and try to legalize the detailing use here, they need to submit an operational plan and they need to tell us where the parking spots for the cars that are awaiting detailing is going to be. This is very, very important to avoid parking on the sidewalk. Other than that, I'm fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I think everything that I wanted to say has been stated. I did go to the site and can confirm all of the findings that everyone has concluded otherwise. The street art versus graffiti, I think there are probably some, as they stated in their statement of facts, there are some murals that they don't want to get rid of and want to consider street art, but I think there are definitely certain areas that need to just be cleaned up and are not street art, and it's just graffiti on different parts of the wall. So as you asked for, Vice Chair, let's let the applicant talk about that. I have no further comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Yoon. Tony, we can move on if there's no other comments. Yes, so let's move on.
Item number 15, 324-14BZ, 19830 Jamaica Avenue, Queens. This is an extension of term of a previously approved variance for the automotive service station.
We received proof of service of initial hearing and public hearing. Community board voted, 25 voted to approve and 6 voted to against. This is an application for an extension of term and a waiver for filing more than 2 years prior to the expiration of the term, which is set to expire in 2025 to allow continuing of existing automotive repair facility. This case has been under the jurisdiction of BSA since 1955. The threshold is per ZR 1141. Lot area of the zoning lot has remained unchanged. The site is not in compliance with the prior grant. There's graffiti on the fence, no landscaping, no trash enclosure per prior grant. They need to stripe the 12 parking spaces, and Google Maps shows that through the years they have more than 12 cars on lot. Proof of continuous use is not required as this term is set to expire in 2025. They're complying of signage. Their hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 6 days a week. The trash container needs to be enclosed. With regard to landscaping, they need to proposing to reduce the planting area along the residential lot line, indicate the width and depth of the in-ground planting area, and provide detail of the landscaping. The low brick planter that exists along the western lot line, my question to the applicant, is that designed for planting? I was not clear. With lighting, they have to indicate existing lighting source of the plan on the plans. Based on the site photos, it does not seem that there will be a light spread onto the residential lots. However, we request the regular note that all lighting sources that are located on the lot line adjacent to residential use shall be shielded from direct view and pointed down and away from the residents to minimize any adverse effects on surrounding residents. Overall, the site needs improvement. They need to prevent the vehicles that are parked along the fence fronting Jamaica Avenue. I would propose putting a metal heading bumper in front of that fence because I just think that's a more permanent solution as opposed to wheel stops that, as we noticed in some of the last cases, tend to move during the term. Vice Chairperson Shanda.
I have no additional comments. I agree with all your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Otley Brown.
They need to verify the lot size because the previous resolution has a lot area of 10,719 square feet and the current application has 8,909 square feet. So that's my major comment. Other than that, I do agree with you that the site needs to be shaped up. There is no landscaping in the landscaping patches. There's just some grass and there's lots of litter. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shetta.
Thank you. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Yoon.
I have only to say that I agree with everything that's been stated. I went to the site, and while there wasn't litter on the site when I went, but everything else, there's no landscaping, all of the things that have been mentioned, the trash is kind of out in the open on the other side of the lot. All of that is confirmed. No further.
I just want to add one thing on the landscaping. As I'm looking at the previously approved plan, there was a lot more landscaping that was asked and has not been built. And I think what the applicant is proposing in terms of the location of the planting area is probably more reasonable because that's the area that needs the buffering from the abutting residential use, because the other portions, you either are facing the street or you're facing a blank wall. So I'm not sure planting would be necessary there. So I would be okay with having to modify the landscaping plan, but the detailing of the landscaping, as you mentioned, Vice Chair, needs to be much clearly laid out, and the kind of planting those need to, because there is already area for in-ground planting. So I don't think it should be very difficult to provide a proper in-ground planting with trees that can provide the visual buffer. It's not just a grass patch.
Thank you, Chairperson. I agree with you. Tony?
Okay, any more comments? So this, if that's that, then this concludes the public review session for February 6th. Do you want to
I think we should move forward. Everyone,
Okay.
do we all agree with moving forward, commissioners? A nod of the head?
Okay.
Let us move forward to hearing.
Steve, you want to put up the sign, please? Thank you, Steve. Okay, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the public hearing for February 6, 2023. We'll begin with special order calendar, continued hearing items. Item number 11, 2017-306BZ, 1977 East 14th Street, Brooklyn. This is Mr. Altman.
Is Ms. Altman?
Not yet.
Well, being as, is
There
Ms.
she is.
Altman?
There she is, Vice
There we
Chair.
go.
I
Thank
could
you,
hear you
sorry.
acting, but I wasn't in yet for some reason. I was hearing it
little-
over the Zoom, but I wasn't in for some reason.
Yeah, it's a little slow or something today. Okay, let me raise your, anyone of joining you?
Well, being as,
I'm sorry, Vice Chair. Go ahead. There she is, Vice Chair.
I could hear you acting, but I wasn't in.
I think you need to turn your YouTube off.
Yeah,
My YouTube. I was hearing it over the Zoom, but I wasn't in. For some reason.
yeah, it's a little slow or something today.
I apologize. My YouTube didn't turn off. Okay, here we are.
Okay, did you want to say something, Vice Chair, before I swore in?
No, please.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Of course.
Okay, please. You're the board's comments. Please proceed.
This is on 1977. Am I correct?
Yes.
I
State your name for
didn't
the
hear it
record.
called. Okay.
I
I
did.
heard there were no comments, and so I am here to listen.
That's great. Tony, would you like to call for any public testimony?
Sure. Steve, can I have the screen, please? Thank you. So the case we are currently discussing is 2017-306BZ, 1977 East 14th Street, Brooklyn. This is an amendment for a previously approved single-family home enlargement. Should you wish to discuss, 646-555-8656, or our toll-free number, which is 888-475-4499. You will enter the webinar ID number 835-8994-2402 and press the pound sign. For the
Okay,
next
Tony.
prompt, you will press the pound sign. When you are, when you're permitted in, press *9 to raise your hand, press *6 to unmute to speak. If you're calling on the phone, and if you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is a small hand on the bottom of your screen. Once you're permitted in, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, Tony, if you could set the time that we set
Yeah.
aside for,
It's already been set, so it's going.
While we are waiting, may I ask a procedural question on the prior application on the calendar?
Let's see. Sure. Well, actually, I don't know if that's appropriate.
No, I'm sorry. Which case? No, we can't discuss. Your case has only been called this case.
Okay. Just a procedural question generally, but let me get a moment, Tony, this afternoon.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can
that is
contact
probably, I think it's probably best you contact Tony or,
Absolutely.
or Jella, the project manager.
My pleasure.
Okay. Oh, wasn't loud enough, sorry.
You heard it.
You heard it? Okay.
Yeah.
having heard no public testimony, I propose a vote to close.
Okay. Chairperson Chanda,
Why, aye?
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 13, 82067 BZ, 41 Barker Street, Staten Island. This is Elise Fullader, sorry.
Hi.
Okay.
I was
Mr.
just talking
Laporta
to the
with you?
architect, but there should be a Thomas Laporta.
Yes,
He's
he has
in.
his hand in. Steve, let him in. Thank you. Mr. Laporta, could you unmute, please, and join the video if you can?
Here.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else?
No, we spoke
Okay.
with the tenant and we'll speak to all the comments.
Okay, please raise your right hands. Mr. Laporta, thank you. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record, and you heard the board's comments, and please respond.
Okay, thank you so much. Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. I'm here with Mr. Laporta, and we're gonna just go through all of your comments. We just spoke with the tenant about what he wants to do and what he can do, and I'll just go through them right now. So first is he heard the comment about the trash enclosure needs to be indicated within the site and only brought out during trash times. So we will update our statement or operations plans with that, and we'll indicate that on the plans. So it's not out in the sidewalk. Next is we heard you want a lot more photographs. Once we fix everything up, we'll get a lot more photographs of the site, including landscaping, which will more clearly, Mr. Laporta will more clearly indicate on the plans. Next, we told the tenant about bumpers. He is more than happy to put in bumpers in all the parking spaces. And he indicated that although he could have more cars on site, as you indicated, he wants to keep the 11 cars. He thinks that's enough, and he'll stripe them and make sure that there's only 11 cars sitting on the site.
I do have a question. So when
Yeah.
you do say that they will want to maintain only 11 cars, however, in reality, there are more than that. And how would he prevent that from happening? Because
I think he is looking, or he has other deals with other automotive and places where he can put his cars in other locations.
okay,
So if he has overflow, then he can go somewhere
Then
else.
that
just
should be
co-
clear. Sorry, go ahead, Vice Chair.
I'm sorry, Chairperson Chanda, please continue.
My suggestion would then you stated in the operational plan, how you would ensure that at a given time, maximum of 11 vehicles will be stored on the site. And if there's any excess, it would be stored not on the side streets, not on the curbside, no double parking, but it would be stored somewhere else, where it's permitted as of right.
Yeah, no problem.
Right?
Is
So
there
that's
some
one.
sort of lease agreement with regard to where these cars are going to be stored?
I have to get you more information about that if we have to, because I haven't looked at, I don't know the address. I don't know the other site. I just know that he said he had somewhere else he could put them if necessary.
So as the chairperson detailed, an explanation of that with whatever evidence to support would be required. Commissioner Shetter, you have your hand?
Yes, I would say we have to specify a condition that maximum number of cars to be kept on site is X 11, and the violation of that should have consequences. I feel like the applicant, since it's working, if you look at the Google Maps and the photos, you're gonna see cars in exceedance of 11 during whatever. So I believe it's cheaper and easier for the applicant. If he's thinking that way, that's cheaper, and it is probably more peace of mind to just go ahead with the application and keep operating like he was operating before. It's not gonna work that way. We're gonna keep an eye on the site, and if we notice that more than 11 cars are existing, we're gonna bring him to a compliance.
Thank you, Commissioner Shetter. And I want to note for the record that if this is to be granted, that our compliance officer is to make a visit at the site to ensure compliance. So have your client know, Ms. Folder, that we are paying close attention to this, because for the last 5 years, there's been a state of overflow of vehicles on the site, and it is a bit unsightly. So
Understood. And
Thank
I'll
you.
send him this video as well, so if he wants to change his mind, he can, and he can let us know how he wants to proceed.
knowing that an amendment comes with all the requirements that you need to, okay.
Understood. And then another question about parking is, on the previously approved plans, I can show you if you want, the parking is laid out a little bit differently than we laid it out, but we felt that there was better maneuverability and same number of cars, but there was better maneuverability in the way we laid it out. So I can share it if you want, but we just want to make sure before we stripe it that it is okay with your board.
Sure, if you'd like to share it with us.
Yeah, so here's the previously approved plans. Share. So you can see this, right?
Yes, we
So,
can.
I mean, Thomas, you can tell me if I'm inaccurate, but 11 is flipped, not parallel, but this way, horizontal. And then everything else is the same, correct, Thomas?
Yeah, so we just rotated spot 11 to be perpendicular to the residential building on the right. So we thought that would be better for the cars to enter and not be blocking the curb cut and the entrance to sliding gate. So if you're okay, if we just change the orientation to better be more feasible for maneuverability, then we'll stripe them the way we showed it on the proposed plans that my office submitted.
Does any commissioner have an objection to that?
Wouldn't that block the gate partially?
I think the way it is approved is probably, I mean, either way, it's going to block.
Oh, this is the one that's on the screen is the one that was approved before?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my apology. Yes, then the new one is better. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I got confused. Thank you.
Any other commissioners want to comment?
I would also say that I didn't have a chance to look at the photos, the site photos until now. And within the site, there is a lot of vehicular parts and debris. And it seems there is a little shed. There's a little like a covered canopy that's there, which is used for some repair work. And I think prior condition was that no repair would happen outdoors. And there are some like machineries that are also outside, car lifts and things like that. So all of these debris and not debris, like these are junks, car parts. They cannot be stored outside. They have to be stored inside the building.
Understood.
And that has to be taken care of now.
Understood.
Do you want to carry on, Ms. Folder?
Okay, no problem. Signage, I spoke with the client in the note before the notice of comments about removing signage that was on the gate outside, and I believe he already did it, but we can confirm that again and fix the sign analysis forms. Definitely something we have to do, but I believe that all additional signage was removed besides the license to operate.
Oh, is that license to operate the
The reg-
makeshift billboard on the side of, on the lot side?
No,
Because in the photos, I do see a billboard, sort of a billboard, that I think would constitute as signage.
okay, I'll double check with that with him and I'll send him a picture of that because I think I know what you're talking.
Okay.
And I think
Uh,
just to clarify, there is, it doesn't look like it's illuminated, so you do have some wiggle room. You are permitted, I think, up to 150 square feet of signage or 3 times your street frontage. So, and I think you're well below that. So if they want to keep some of the signage, they just have to
No,
go
no,
through
no,
the
no,
work
no,
of
Commissioner
doing
Yoon,
it all, right?
Just
Commissioner
one
Yoon,
moment, Commissioner.
since this is an interior lot, the 150 is not something that's granted at all. And this is in this is
In an R3A.
in an R3A district. So in an R3A district, typically the signage has to comply with a C1, and since it's an interior lot, I think maximum of 50 square foot is permitted.
My apologies.
That's okay. I also learned the hard way.
Okay,
So-
I guess my question then is the sign that we have, I have to look at the previously approved plan.
Yeah,
I
you
think
have
it's too
to,
big then.
yeah.
I think you need to revamp your signage analysis and take account for the 2 signs. If the sign on the gate's going to be removed, as you stated, has been removed, you're gonna have to redo your signage analysis to take light of the 2 signs and see if they're in compliance.
Right.
And I don't think we need those signages, but if I could share my screen again. The signage is probably, if 3 times 20 is more than 50. And it's on this previously approved plan.
I see. So I don't remember seeing any reference to signage in the, I didn't have a chance to review all of the resolutions, but if you can point us as to what the signage requirement was from the prior resolution, that would be helpful.
Okay, because if it's not in the resolution, but it's on this previously approved plan.
Well, Ms. Folder,
Yeah.
I think you should make that argument in writing. And then
Okay,
we can
that's what I'm
review it.
asking.
Yeah, we can review that argument and see how the commissioners feel about it. Certainly, if it is something that has been pre-approved, that's certainly a consideration of ours.
No problem. Here you go. Stop share. Okay, thank you very much. I will move on.
I do have a question. You did provide the certificate of for the, oh, why am I forgetting the terminology? And my apologies.
Inspection and compliance?
The
No.
booth.
Oh, spray booth.
Spray
Yeah, we
booth,
showed compliance with the spray. for
Thank
the-
you. I think it expires, the spray booth certification is till 2024, which is next year.
Mhm.
What typically happens? I mean, you will have to automatically file for renewal, right? Or are you planning to not maintain the spray booth?
I have to ask them, but I'm assuming that they would want to maintain the spray booth.
Okay. And
But I
how
have to ask.
do these certifications, how long are they valid for?
I think those are all questions I would have to research and put in.
The reason I'm asking these questions, I just want to make sure that should the board grant it, that one of the conditions would be getting an extension for the spray booth, should spray booth be retained. Or if it's not, then you file just a letter to us stating that the spray booth has been removed.
Okay, no problem. That makes sense.
Chair, you mean certification, not extension, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Should I move on?
Please.
Okay.
I
and
just want to
then-
clarify the signage comment, because if I'm looking at 32,642, And it says for C1, 3 times the street frontage of the zoning lot. This is for non-illuminated signs. 3 times the street frontage of the zoning lot, but in no event more than 150 square feet for interior or through lots, or 150 square feet on each frontage for corner lots.
Oh,
Well, Ms. Yoon, Commissioner Yoon, I appreciate that a great deal. I think that we should let the applicant make their applicant in their submission, try to delineate what they're entitled to.
I understand. I just want to clarify
That was helpful,
our
so thank
understanding of the regulation.
Yeah.
Miss Yoon, you're right. I mean, 50 square foot is for the illuminated, 150 is the total signage and the total non-illuminated maximum. So I was reading out the 50. I heard illuminated, and that's why I said 50.
Okay.
But in this case, if the board granted no more than 3 by 20, which is then what we should limit it to.
Understood.
If 50 or, I mean, I would rather go for the lesser since it's a purely residential district. In that case, we should limit it to whatever the lesser of the square footage that was granted. That would be my suggestion.
Fair enough. Understood. We'll let the tenant know. So the next comment I have is we'll add a statement because we filed a waiver about substantial prejudice. We did file less than 2 years before the end of the term, so it hasn't been non-continuous, just letting everyone know. Trash and glow landscaping. And then Thomas can add, go to the site and add more details per the previously approved plans. Is there anything you'd like to clarify with them, Tom, before we finish this hearing about that?
No, what we'll do is we'll leave the civil survey on, and then we'll add an architectural site survey with a lot more detail on it.
That's satisfactory to me. Other commissioners satisfied with that? Seeing most of them nodding in the affirmative.
I think a site plan, yeah, a separate site plan from the survey.
And then lighting, yeah, they I think Commissioner Chairperson Chanda explained the lighting, and Tom had added the note, but we'll make sure to clarify that it's there, that it will not shine on the standard note that it won't go on any residential properties, but they do close the site at 5.
Okay.
And
Is there
that's
anything
all.
else? Do
Not
any
that I-
commissioners have any comments or questions that they'd like to ask Ms. Folger or Mr. Laporta?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
For the public.
And I'd ask that you ask the public.
Okay, the case we are currently discussing is 82067BZ, 41 Parker Street, Staten Island. This is an extension of term of a previously approved variance permitting an auto service repair facility. Should you wish to discuss, please dial 646-558-8656 or a toll-free number should you be outside city limits, 888-475-4499. You will enter webinar ID number 835-8994-2402. Press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're in, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you are calling on the phone in order to be heard. And if you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the small hand at the bottom of your screen. Once you are permitted in, you will have 3 minutes to speak to discuss this case.
As we wait, Ms. Folger, Mr. Laporta, how much time do you think you need to revise the plans and to address our comments?
I think because we want to put in the bumpers, et cetera, or try to do as much as we can and update the plans, a month or so would be helpful.
Okay, well, we'll reach out to staff and see as soon as they can.
Yeah,
What time
I'm saying
around
you don't
what
need to
month?
rush it ASAP. We need a little bit of time to put ourselves together.
Yeah, and you can use this time also to clean up the site and then
Yes.
remove all the excess car parts.
Yes, exactly.
Will you be providing the trash enclosure within the trash bin in the building, or will there be a separate trash enclosure outside the building?
I think it's a good question, and I just spoke with the client about not having it in its location has to be within the site. So if there's a recommendation, but we have to figure out what's.
I think that is up to you, because given your maneuverability plan, you need to figure out where you can, and 11 parking spaces, where you can locate the trash enclosure, if it has to be outside the building.
Mhm.
If it is, then you know our standard ask, you need to have a trash enclosure within which the trash then needs to be located, because you
Mhm.
have residential buildings on both sides. If it is inside the building, then you have a trash bin inside the building. It only comes out only during pickup.
Mhm.
Period. So, but that needs to be all clarified in your operational plan.
Tony, are we still on time for the public hearing? For
There you
the
go.
public?
Done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Folger and Mr. Laporta, for responding to our comments. I say we can move on to the next case.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item number 14-21200BZ, 640-666 South Conduit Boulevard, Brooklyn. This is Mr. Glenn Catrona. Please allow Mr. Catrona in. Okay. Is there anyone else with you? I don't think so, right? I don't see anyone else in the room. Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and please respond to the comments from the board.
Glenn Catrona, representing 640, 666 Conduit Boulevard. Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and BSA staff. I was sitting in on the executive session, heard the comments very clearly. I think part of, I'll go through the comments, but I think part of some of the nature of the comments will take a little bit of review of certain sections of the zoning resolution to answer them with confidence and accuracy. But in any respect, we discussed, the detailing component there. One thing that I want to say globally about this here particular location, 26,000 plus square feet. Its proximity to Kennedy Airport, I think, is the nature of the majority of the business that goes through there. There's fleets of people, that the motoring public that services transportation from Kennedy Airport. So what I've seen when I've been there multiple times is specifically these vehicles pulling in, gassing up, running through the car wash, picking a cup of coffee, and some even more. In terms of this here leasing component, I was looking at my plan versus the prior approved plan. The spaces are pretty similar in terms of there are a couple of uses within one open area. The Dunkin' Donuts, the convenience component, this here vehicle leasing. So it's like there are a couple of small spots within this here open area. I would like to study that because yes, we are C12. I need to look at the fact if an amendment is truly needed here. I also want to go back to the client. I'd like to reflect the comments, the nature of the comments with the client to see what it is that they would, prefer us to do. But, this is an amazingly active location that services this population. I think organically, the reason why there are these amenities that are there. So I want to take the time to go back and review everything and understand it clearly before I truly respond. You know,
I appreciate that a great deal. There is as you heard from myself and the other commissioners, we sincerely believe that there needs to be a revamp of this application. And again, if there is going to be amendment, it would have to go through the 7221 findings. Further, with regard to vehicle detailing, if that's something that you want to pursue, it would have to be a substantive response, because in the last hearing, the resolution was based on the community board's position that they did not want vehicle detailing at this site. So that it has been ongoing is a violation of the prior resolution. So I do agree with you. I think that this is going to take some real careful consideration in a submission, and I appreciate your acknowledgement of that.
yeah, Vice Chair, it needs to be balanced between, you know, truly what's going on there and how it applies to the zoning resolution, as well as what type of a lift the ownership of this premises would like us to pursue. You know, in terms of, you know, we spoke about the graffiti. Yes, Commissioner Una made a comment. There is one area where I most certainly think this is an expression of the community, the nature of what is visually portrayed there. You know, I think could be looked at as street art for sure. You know, this community made some statements on that wall. I spoke to the ownership. I was out there recently, and they said, look, you know, we have an ongoing maintenance issue with graffiti in general. So anything that we would consider graffiti or things that are tagged on this site, you know, will most certainly be upgraded. It gives me an opportunity to go back to ownership after, you know, sitting through this particular hearing.
I just want to mention, Commissioner Yoon did make a statement to me off the record with regard to how this particular, some portions are more, would be considered street art, in that they have not been written over as other portions have. And I think that a response that is a more substantial response with regard to the difference between street art and graffiti, I think is called for.
Some of the graphics were done very deliberately with, you know, detail and, you know, a community expression, that's for sure. But, you know, again, globally, I want to go over this entire site with the comments that were made here so that we could be productive. And I feel confident, you know, testifying on this here. In terms of the curb cuts, overall, with the amount of activity that's on this site, I would classify the site as, you know, relatively in good shape. But I will tell you, this client makes me feel comfortable because I think they will make a, you know, a concerted effort. I know one of the issues is potentially the term, but I think if we can dovetail in cooperation and compliance, you know, and whatever steps we need to take to make this a prudent effort, you know, I think we can discuss that. I'm not ready to discuss that portion at this point. In terms of signage complying, yes, we'll go through that. And also, we've had a number of conversations on other cases that we had. And, you know, Commissioner Otley Brown was talking about the restaurant areas and, you know, looking at how we actually break that up. Well, maybe Chair was making those comments as well. But we're clear about that. And I need to do some homework and go back there. We'll define the detailing area. We'll also seek if the client is looking to pursue that, and at what level. In terms of maneuverability, I get it with all the uses. I think this will just happen once we define what we're rightfully able to keep there, and how it all works, and we'll provide a maneuverability plan. I do agree with the fact, you know, this is so unique, 26,000 plus square feet. It is surrounded by streets. There's no residential uses adjacent to this here. We've looked at lighting plans. We've done lighting plans ourselves. There's street lighting, which would overshadow the specific lighting that's being generated from this site. But having said that, we will add a note to the plan. Also, the Chair spoke about the wheel stops along Sheridan restoring that and looking at if we put some sort of a fence or a wall. Let me look into that there a little bit closer. In terms of vehicles parking on the sidewalk, when I was there, you know, I really didn't see much of that there. Although I won't argue that point. I know that these Google images capture times where, you know, potentially that's the condition. I don't know if it's a major issue or if it's just something that happens, but again, potentially signage or, you know, I think the ownership gets back into shape when they hear and they go through a process like this here. But they are very cooperative and they run an amazing business there. So, you know, Commissioner Ali Brown spoke about the, you know, it's an intensive use. Yeah, there's a real intensive use there. It's way different. You know, it is by visual terms, it looks like almost like a strip, you know, because of the prolongation of it. But in any respect, a few of the uses are combined in the central space, which is pretty much along the lines of what we see in the past approval. But we'll go through that there. We'll upgrade the signage analysis. Some of these things repeated. You know, whether we go and pursue an amendment, once I do my homework on this side, we'll know. Car detailing came up again, and you know, last comments were about the graffiti. I would tell you, I think on this one here, I always like to move things along briskly, but I think we need.
Just one moment, Mr. Catrona. Chairperson Chanda has her hand raised.
Oh, you needn't have called me. I would let Mr. Catrona finish, and then I want to be first in line to ask a question.
Chair, I'm good. I really what I'm saying here is I'd like to step away from this here, do some homework, come back with a submission that you each can take a look at, and you know, maybe work with my project manager a little bit in terms of asking some interim questions along the way. But please, you know, we're here to listen and do what we have to do to get this.
Yes, I think it would be good if you do don't take too much time, because the site is working out of compliance. Take just enough time to respond to all the questions and provide a response in a manner that can correct the wrongs and improve the condition. You know, personally, I think there is a form of artwork, a community expression that is growing using street art. And I personally do find street art very much a strong part of the neighborhood character, and neighborhood speaks the neighborhood representation. However, there are infused with it is graffiti. So either, you know, and what I have noticed in my neighborhood, I think walls have been dedicated for street art almost. So you end up having the street art which becomes permanent, and there is a certain amount of respect. Everybody grows or certain amount of deference that is given to it by even the taggers, and then that keeps it at bay. And if you want to do that, you know, definitely, I think a community board input is needed on this one. And this particular wall faces the park space. So it can be a good synergy if done well. But and especially when it's done in cooperation with the community board's understanding and full support, it becomes a better artwork. So if you're going to explore that, do look into it and do talk to the community board and let us know how you feel about it. Because that does make it a pride of the community to some extent.
Understood. I have a meeting with the community board on February 21st. We were corresponding with them, but we finally nailed it down to February 21st.
Okay, great. I do have some questions on this signage, and I'm looking at specifically photos that were submitted. This is photo number 44 that was submitted on November 4th. And in that, photo number 44. Okay. And in that, the signage that is at the corner of Grant and South Conduit, I think that signage extends well beyond the permitted signage onto the sidewalk. And I think the height of that especially the arrow that is pointing towards the car thing. I think it's below. And then on top of it, I see another sign that is mounted on that city pole, which says open, and there's an arrow. So you really need to look at the signage very thoroughly. And I know this area quite well. And yes, I agree with you that this is mostly traffic to and from the airport, but it is surrounded by residential users around it. It's not, so there has to be a certain amount of respect that needs to be given to that, and the site needs to be improved.
Fair enough. Now,
I-
Madam Chair, just one thing, please. I'd like to ask you this question because you said, to take some time, but not too much time. So I'd like to strike a balance between being able to respond to the board, okay, as well as where I can actually have the client make some of these improvements so that at that submission, you will see the effort made. I'd be happy to turn this around from a code perspective and looking at where we stand with all this here and what the next steps may be. I could do that reasonably, within a reasonable amount of time. But if the board would expect to see in the submission some of these here improvements, then I think the nature of where we're at, just in the time of our climate of year, may not be timely to paint or to do other things. Maybe making some improvements at the curb cuts and that type of thing, but it'll take a little bit of time to, secure contractors, pull permits, because that's not being done just as a repair.
Understood. However, we have been very fortunate, and as global warming is kind of hitting us, we are not seeing much of a winter period. So you may get lucky and be able to do some of these improvements sooner than later. But signage doesn't need weather.
No.
So
Fine.
you can definitely fix the signage as soon as possible. So, we are in February. Typically winter stays, what did that groundhog say?
Well,
Spring?
there's a debate between two of them. One
Oh.
says an early spring, that's Staten Island Chuck, which is the one which I prefer at this point, says an early spring. And
Okay, I'll go for
the-
early spring.
yeah, the other one from listen, we don't need to hear him.
We're getting close.
So Chairperson, would you like to say how much time that you think is appropriate?
And that's a question I was going to ask Mr. Katrina. How much time you think you would need? 3 months?
I think that's a reasonable amount of time to make any effort to get back to the board with strong information based on code and the effort to make some of the adjustments.
Right. So first you do need to take care of the signage. They have been in non-compliance. As I was looking at the historic Google Street View, they've been in non-compliance since 2012. So those need to be fixed. And you need to revise the signage analysis. As Commissioner Otley Brown pointed out, provide the signage analysis by each frontage. I understand why you're breaking it up by each ownership, because that's how on a zoning lot, if you have each use, you would kind of do it by each use. But if you were to do that, there'll be excessive signage on this side. So I think doing a comprehensive a total signage analysis by each frontage would make would make a better sense. That, and then as some of the questions I pointed out on the signage, I think some of them are not even meeting some of the basic signage regulations in terms of extending beyond the lot line, the height of the signage, all of those things. Then if for whatever unforeseeable reason, it ends up being a brutal winter with ice and all of that, what I would suggest you do is then you at least get a contract with showing that you are in discussion and you're ready to start the work, and you have signed a deal with a contractor to fix the curb cuts and other site conditions. So show us the path forward of the actions that are going to be taken if because of unforeseen conditions, you were not able to take care of it. But I don't think that holds for signage. Signage you should be able to take care of regardless.
Sure, agreed.
One other thing that may need your immediate attention is that after our review session, I received notice that the FDNY has issued 2 violation orders to legalize and conduct system testing. I think that's something that needs your immediate attention as well. Do we have any?
Vice Chair, do you want to take testimony from Deputy Chief Daley, or you want to wait till we go to the public?
Well, first, I'd like to ask if any other commissioners have any other comments. Seeing none, I ask Commissioner Yoon, do you have any comments you'd like to make? No?
Thank
Okay. All right, Deputy Counsel.
Counsel? Wait.
Yes, hi. The testimony from the fire department is generally taken as part of the public hearing, the public portion of this. So when we go to the public, we can ask Chief Daley for his comments.
Yeah.
So let us please, hearing no objections, let us hear from the public.
Sure. So the case we are currently discussing is 21200BZ 64666 South Conduit, Brooklyn. It's an extension of term of a previously approved variance which permitted the operation of an auto service station with accessory uses. Should you wish to discuss, dial 646-558-8656 or a toll-free number, which is 888-475-4499 should you be outside the city limits. You will enter the webinar ID number 8994-2402 and then press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign. Once you're permitted in, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you are calling from the phone in order to be heard. If you are in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is a small hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are permitted in, you will have 3 minutes in which to participate.
Deputy Chief Daley.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for acknowledging our email, which I should have sent earlier, and I apologize for that. As per my email, we had an inspection. An inspection was performed at 640 South Conduit Boulevard. In particular, our Rangewood unit conducted the inspection at the Crown Fried Chicken. They had discovered that the commercial cooking equipment fire extinguishing system had not been approved by the fire department, nor an inspection, testing of the system has been performed. Therefore, 2 violation orders were issued. Copies of those violation orders will be forwarded to the BSA at a later date. So therefore, the fire department respectfully requests that the BSA not grant an extension of the term variance till after we obtained, they obtained approval and sign-offs from the fire department. Thank you.
Okay, waiting for the time for public hearing to. It just did?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Catrona, you have quite a hurdle. As you've heard from the commissioners in review, you have quite a hurdle before you, but I'm quite confident that you are more than qualified to address it appropriately, and I look forward to your submission.
Thank you. You all laid it out very clearly, so I thank you for that part of it and appreciate everybody's time.
And before we move on, once again, I'll ask if any other commissioner has any comments that they'd like to make.
Oh, I do. And that is, there were, in addition to the signage that you did do an analysis, I did notice a lot of excess banners and boards based on this photos and street views. So those need to be removed because that would add to your signage. You already exceed much of the signage requirements, so those would need to be removed.
Terry, you said banners and boards.
Right, I noticed a banner, there, I think a couple of banners I noticed on, especially with regards to the car cleaning. They were along Grant Avenue, and I think I may have noticed a few, and this was based on Google Street View. So it would be worthwhile to get a complete inventory of all the signage as it exists and then do the analysis and remove a lot of the excess, like the banners and, those cardboard, the board signs that are placed. And I definitely am not in favor of board signs here because you have a very high traffic movement here and wind can blow them around. So, and you cannot have them fixed to the ground. So you're better off not having them. So those are the things that you need to also work with your client to make sure the signage is all secured and conform.
Thank you.
Or comply, sorry, not conform, comply.
That's good.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Catrona. And Tony, I think we can move on.
Yes, thank you. Item number 15, 324-14BZ, 198-30 Jamaica Avenue, Queens. Mr. Rothkug, please sign in as panelist. Hiram Rothkug.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is there anyone else with you? It doesn't seem like it, but.
No, it's only me this morning. Thank you.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record and respond to the board's comments.
Hiram Rothkug, Basilati Associates. I attended executive session this morning. The first thing I'd like to do for the vice chair is the community board vote was unanimously in favor, 25-0. I think the vice chair mentioned it was 25-6. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. It was unanimous.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll have to look.
That-
I'm sure you're saying the truth. Let me just I'll have to relook at it though.
That's okay. Not a problem. The comments were very generic. Yes, we need to put in some landscaping. I'd like to inform the board that there's a new tenant on the site, and there was some site disruption and site maintenance that needed to be done to place that new tenant, and that's why the landscaping. That's why there's not the required landscaping on the site right now. But in general, I'd like to. We will address the board's comments with regard to landscaping, with the width, depth, and the type of landscaping that's going to be installed. And we do have areas that have already been excavated on the site for planting, for in-ground planting, which will make life easier. We're going to strike the parking spaces. We're going to put an enclosure around the trash dumpster. We're going to add a note that all lighting be pointed down and away. We're going to look at the vice chair's comment with regard to metal bumpers in front of the fence along Jamaica Avenue so that the fence isn't compromised. And then we're going to address Commissioner Otley Brown's comment with regard to the square footage, a difference in the square footage that's shown. So in terms of making changes to the plans, I mean, we could adjust the plans within a week to get back to the board. The landscaping would probably be put in place when the weather gets a little better. So I'd say sometime towards the middle to end of March, we'd install the landscaping.
I do take some exception to calling the comments generic, as they're specifically tailored to their site visits and Google Photos. While I can understand the need for more time with regard to landscaping, the trash enclosure and the 12 parking spaces is something you could probably do immediately.
Absolutely.
Chairperson Chanda, do you have any comments with regard to timeline?
No, I agree with you what you said. The improvements of striping, trash enclosure can be done immediately. And meanwhile, the applicant can provide a revised plan with regards to the landscaping detailing and all the corrections regarding the lot area square footage.
Okay.
I don't know how long that it will take. It can be done in like a month's time, in a month or so, maybe.
Okay. Do we have any comments from other commissioners?
Just since we're looking at the documents, I forgot to mention that there is two typos, maybe one of them in the statement of facts. One of them, when the statement says argues about the substantial prejudice, it says that significant financial commitment has been made in order to ensure. This is a typo. It's ensure en. It's not in. And then that the automotive facility, and it continues with all the city and state regulations and substantial prejudice would result without such a waiver. I believe it should be such an extension. My understanding is this is not like the initial grant of a variance. This is an extension of time or term. So it should be, instead of a waiver, it should be extension. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners have any comments? Seeing no hands raised, I ask that this be brought to the public.
That's great. Okay, good morning. We are still in the morning. The case we're currently discussing is 324-14 BZ 198-30 Jamaica Avenue, Queens. This is an extension term of a previously approved variance permitting the automotive service station. Should you wish to discuss, dial 646-558-8656, or outside the city, our toll-free number is 888-475-4499. And you will enter the webinar, once you're permitted in, enter the webinar ID number 835-8994-2402 and the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign. Once you are permitted in, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you are calling on the phone in order to be heard. And if you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the small hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are permitted in, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
Okay, Ms. Harper, thank you for responding to the concerns and for detailing that you will respond in writing. You heard the timeline that Chairperson Chanda has stated, and I look forward to your application. We're just waiting for the public to come in if they choose to testify in this action.
Just give it a few minutes, have another minute.
In this interim, is there any other commissioner that'd like to make any comments or questions to the applicant?
I do have one question. The recommendation that Vice Chair made regarding the bumper, can that also be placed now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
What I'd like to recommend or suggest to the board, if it's possible, is to close the hearing and set a date in April. And when we come back in April to the board, all the landscaping, all the maintenance on the site, everything will have been taken care of with new photos and revised plans to the board, if that's an option for us.
There's a lot that needs to be done on the site. If you're confident that you can close and you address all of our issues satisfactorily, I wouldn't be opposed to. Does any commissioner have a position on this?
I would be okay with it, but if it's not done, we would have to reopen it.
Oh, absolutely. But that's why I mentioned an April hearing date. I think that would give us sufficient time. It would also, the weather would be nicer. We could get into planting and schedule all that stuff to be done. And in April, it will be finished for the board.
Mr. Rocker, I'm all for efficiency, so I support it. Any commissioners have any comments with regard to the request of the applicant?
No.
Seeing none.
I have a question. Because the previously approved plans and the current plans have some discrepancies, of course, about where the landscaping is. We talked about where some could be potentially reduced or eliminated. So there's just that area of, are we expecting the improvements to be done pursuant to the previously approved BSA plans, or according to some level of modification that is up to the applicant's discretion.
I think that's a great question. I think the commission should discuss it. Does anyone have any?
Yeah, I believe that the chair mentioned that the landscaping on the side where the building exists, she believes that what I understood is that she believes that it's not needed, and I do agree with that. I wouldn't prefer to put landscaping next to that existing buildings because it's an invite for moisture from the irrigation. So if they can reinstate the landscaping on the other side, that would be satisfactory for us. And if you look at the photos, actually, there is kind of like a short wall next to that building. So I don't think putting landscaping there would be feasible.
Yeah.
Commissioner Otley Brown, Commissioner Yoon, do you have a position on that?
I have no position.
Chairperson?
No, as I stated, I think the existing plan as shown area of landscaping is probably where it makes sense for landscaping to happen. You already have the ground in ability to do in-ground planting, and it is the area where the buffering is needed from the adjacent residential areas. So that would be the area I would be okay with. But the applicant should know the kind of buffering we are looking for. It's not like low hedges or something. It's very similar to an application, Mr. Rockbrook, you had done for another gas station in Staten Island, which had a side lot that was abutting a residential use, and you provided planting. These were pretty high, I think, arborvitae that was placed along the residential lot line, about 6 foot high. So keep those factors in mind. If you are not reviewing the plans prior to installation, you need to make sure you install them as what the board has asked for. Otherwise, you would have to come back to us revising the plan and also having your client to redo the landscaping.
Absolutely understood, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Commissioner Yoon, as you brought this up, is there anything you'd like to add, or?
I guess the only reason I bring it up is that I would hate to have some misunderstanding graphically or with intent if we close and the applicant then amends from the previously approved plan in ways that we weren't expecting. So as long as it's clear.
So I'm sorry, I just want to step in. I'm looking at I'm looking at the site plan that is one of two, the existing site plan, and it shows where the existing planter area is. That's the area that I'm suggesting be planted. And because that is the area that is abutting the residential. If that is acceptable to everybody, of course, the only thing I don't know what the width of that is. I'm assuming it is about 2 feet, 1 foot or something. So that's my only concern, that there would be enough area for.
It does seem a bit small for a 6 foot arborvitae.
Yeah, that is my only concern. So Commissioner Yoon is raising a good point.
I want us to be very clear because I'm trying to find now the previously approved BSA plans that are stamped because they're quite different than the existing plan. There's a lot more landscaping along both street frontages that are not shown on the existing plans and don't exist today. So I would just hate for us to come back and say, oh, well, this is way too different later down the line.
No, I truly appreciate your concern. And I think it's best that we flush this out now. Mr. Rocker, can you assure us that the 6 foot arborvitae on that lot in a way that will be sustainable for the future, not die within months, on the portion indicated by Chairperson Chanda?
We're talking about the 199th Street side, Chair?
We're talking about not just the 199th. It's literally along the back of the lot. and that wraps around partially along 199 and also along the abutting lot.
Yes. So, you know, Chair, as I mentioned before, I believe those sites have already been, I think there's in-ground planting strips. So it's not a question. Simple answer is yes, we will have landscaping as shown on the previously approved plan. Okay, so in the previous, and I'm looking at the previously approved plan, Commissioner Yoon, it's dated 2022-0809 and just says plans. In that, the planting strip is 4 foot wide. Now, I do not have a dimension of the planting strip on your plans. So based on what is shown here, it seems it's definitely less than 4 foot wide. So if you're going to do any planting, it has to be minimum 4 foot wide. Okay.
It has to be a 4 foot wide planting strip, and there has to be adequate depth. And you can reach out to our project managers to find out what is the typical depth that has to have, that you need to provide for in-ground planting.
You would like us to provide Mr. Rothkirk with a sample?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yes. And the in-ground planting, basically the way I'm looking at, if I'm looking at the existing plan, it's that in-ground planting that is along the rear lot line and extending a little bit up to 199th Street. And then the in-ground planting that is for the remainder of the rear lot line that is on the west side and wrapping around to the side lot line to some extent.
Yes, understood.
Okay, now the dumpster location, are we all okay with the proposed dumpster location?
I'm satisfied by it.
Okay,
Chairperson?
but yeah, I'm okay with it, but it needs to be enclosed. And where it is located, it right now, diagrammatically, it would affect the location. I don't think it's a good location, given that you have vehicles parked right against it. So you need to relocate it a little bit away from that. And I don't think it makes sense for it to be along 199th Street. And the fence along 199th Street, as I was looking at the photos, it's a little bent out of shape.
Okay.
And there are a lot of dead tree trunks, I think, that is stuck to it. So you need to fix that fence. Otherwise, it's going to topple over at some point.
Okay, so maybe, maybe because there are some open items here, maybe we don't necessarily need to close for decision. What I request for the board is if we have an April hearing and everything has been done and to satisfy the board.
I would revise. No, Mr. Rothkirk. I would revise it slightly differently. What I would suggest, I think Commissioner Yoon raises a very good point. You submit a revised plan with the detailing of the landscaping and the location of the landscaping and where the trash enclosure is going to be and the kind of trash enclosure you're proposing, material and all of that. Provide that. And meanwhile, in this 1 month, if you can do some improvements, show those photos, we can close after that. And then you make the improvements to the landscaping and everything, and then we can just vote after that.
That sounds great. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rothkirk, as I'm, this is what happens when you start looking at photos, you start seeing things. And I'm looking at photo number 9 from the 8/9/2022 submission, and I see another little strip of in-ground kind of planting strip that is along 199th Street. Since you have that in-ground planting, you might as well plant something nice there. I think that used to be a ramp, and you can Because I don't know which is cheaper, to fill it up with concrete, or leaving it like that and and it'll be unsightly because you'll just have dirt, which will create mess, or just sprucing it up and adding some nice little bushes there.
Okay,
I will
Right.
say, I went to the site recently, and all of the, if you look at the previously approved BSA plans, all those landscape strips that are shown on 199th Street and on Jamaica, they're not there. They're all filled in with asphalt or concrete. And there
Ah.
seem to be some raised planter areas that are limited to the rear lot line, but the previously approved BSA plan, and this is why I bring it up, because it sounds like we're all amenable to some reduction of landscaping, but there's currently very little to none, even in the, or evidence of it having been there prior, based on my site visit recently.
Okay. Okay,
Do we have a set of plans that's called previously approved? Because I saw a set of plans that says existing plans, and then there is just plans, 2 PDFs.
Yes, the plans is the previously approved.
Okay.
So, Mr. Rothbrook, it seems the photos are a little bit provided a little bit older than what the current site condition is. So do provide an updated site photo.
sure. Actually, I'm going to provide.
Chair, I looked at the photos, and specifically I'm talking about photo number 10. I was trying to see, like, adjacent to that building, whether this little wall extends and extends to where the previous planter was supposed to be there, but the photo doesn't actually help. Let me just show what I'm talking about. I don't want them touch. You see this piece of wall here? That little wall.
Yeah.
Mr. Roskich, can you educate us whether this piece of wall extends all the way to the end of the building, or it stops where the planter shows up?
I don't think it extends to the rear lot line, but
If it does, Chair, please, if it does, I wouldn't them to touch this wall. Just if it does extend to the end of the wall of that building, just leave it as is. Do not try to remove it to put a planter there. Is that clear?
yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, so Mr. Ralker, you've heard the comments of the board. There is a bit more to do, then unfortunately we can't close this matter. So provide a response within a month and we can schedule the hearing accordingly.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Rothbrook.
Thank you.
So there being nothing else, do you want to conclude the hearing?
I do want to conclude this hearing.
Okay, so this concludes the public hearing for February 6th, 2023. Thank you. We will resume tomorrow for another portion of the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.